The alarm rang through Sentinel Station like a heartbeat racing in fear. Hyun-Woo Kim looked up from his morning coffee as red lights flashed across the control room. He was Earth's top diplomat, a man who had spent 30 years learning to read people and situations. Right now his instincts screamed danger. 6 ships just appeared at the edge of our solar system, the station commander said. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly. They're broadcasting diplomatic codes. It's the Valorian hegemony. Hyun-Woo felt his stomach drop. Everyone in human space knew about the Valorians. They controlled most of the galaxy. Dozens of alien species bowed to them. Some willingly, most had no choice. For years, humanity had wondered when the Valorians would notice Earth. That day had finally come. The alien ships were beautiful in a way that made them seem more dangerous. They looked like they were made of crystal and light. Each one was bigger than Earth's largest military cruiser. They moved through space with the confidence of predators who had never met anything stronger. They want to meet, the commander said. They're requesting permission to approach Earth. Hyun-Woo straightened his uniform. His daughter's photo sat on his desk, a reminder of what he was protecting. She had died 10 years ago, when an alien probe had destroyed a mining colony. He pushed the grief down and focused. Tell them yes. We'll meet them at Havens Gate Station. 3 days later, Hyun-Woo stood in the grand meeting hall of Havens Gate. The station floated between Earth and Mars, built specifically for moments like this. Behind him stood Dr. Minji Han, a young woman who understood alien languages better than anyone alive. She had studied every piece of alien technology Earth had ever found. They're here, Minji whispered. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and worry. The doors opened. The Valorian delegation entered the room like they owned it. At the front walked High Diplomat Vexillara. She was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Her skin changed colors as she moved, shifting from blue to purple to silver. Behind her came Enforcer Crowthorn, a massive creature covered in scales and old battle scars. He looked like he could tear through steel with his bare hands. Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim, Vexillara said. Her voice sounded like music, but cold music. How wonderful to finally meet humanity's representatives. You are such a young species, so full of potential. The way she said young felt like an insult wrapped in a compliment. Hyun-Woo had dealt with bullies before, just never ones who controlled half the galaxy. Welcome to human space, Hyun-Woo replied. We're honored by your visit. They sat at a large table. Vexillara placed a data device in the center. Holographic text appeared in the air, written in multiple languages, including human English. This is our offer, she said. The Valorian hegemony extends an invitation for Earth to join our community. You would have access to trade routes spanning hundreds of worlds, protection from hostile species, technology beyond your current capabilities. All we ask in return is cooperation. Minji leaned close to Hyun-Woo and whispered in Korean. The document has hidden clauses. They want control of our military. They want mining rights to our colonies. This isn't partnership. This is surrender with fancy words. Hyun-Woo kept his face neutral. Years of diplomatic training helped him hide his anger. This is very generous. We'll need time to review the terms with our government. Vexillara's skin flashed red for just a moment. Minji had taught him that meant annoyance in Valorian body language. Of course, Vexillara said, but I must share something with you. History, you understand. 3 other young species declined our invitation in the past century. The Karathi, the Plen, the Sindari. Perhaps you've heard of them. Hyun-Woo shook his head. He already knew what was coming, no? Vexillara smiled, showing too many teeth. That's because they no longer exist. Space is dangerous, Ambassador, full of hostile forces. The hegemony protects its members. Those outside our protection often face unfortunate circumstances. The threat couldn't have been clearer. Join us or die. Enforcer Crowthorn grinned, his claws scraping against the table. Meanwhile, far out near Jupiter, Captain Dae-Jung Park sat in the command chair of the EDF Indomitable. His ship was one of Earth's newest cruisers, armed with the best weapons humanity could build. It still felt like a toy compared to what he was watching on his screens. Sir, the Valorian ships are scanning everything, his tactical officer reported. They're mapping our defenses, our weapon systems, our bases. They're not even trying to hide it. Dae-Jung was a military man. He understood predators. The Valorians were studying their prey, figuring out how easy humanity would be to kill if it came to that. Keep recording everything, he ordered. and get me a secure line to Earth Defense Command. Back at Haven's Gate, the first meeting ended. Vexlara stood, her skin now a calm blue. You have 72 hours to consider our offer, Ambassador. After that, we'll need an answer. The hegemony doesn't like to wait. When the Valorians left, Hyunwoo collapsed into his chair. Minji immediately pulled up the full treaty document, her fingers flying across her computer. This is worse than I thought, she said. If we sign this, Earth becomes a puppet state. They'll control our government, our military, our resources. We'll be slaves with a different name. And if we don't sign? Hyunwoo asked, though he already knew. Then they destroy us, like they destroyed the others. Hyunwoo looked out the window at Earth, that blue-green jewel hanging in space. Somewhere down there, billions of people went about their lives not knowing that their entire future was being decided by aliens who saw them as nothing more than resources to exploit. His communicator buzzed. It was a priority message from Earth Defense Command, encrypted, eyes only. He opened it. One word appeared on the screen. Leviathan. Hyunwoo's eyes went wide. He'd heard rumors. Whispers in classified briefings. Stories about a secret project that had consumed massive resources for 15 years. Most people thought it was just a myth, a fairy tale to make people feel safer. But that word on his screen meant it was real. Out near Jupiter, Captain Daijung received the same message. His serious face broke into a slow smile. He turned to his young helmsman, Lieutenant Taeyang Song. Lieutenant, plot a course to the Kuiper Belt, maximum stealth. Tell no one where we're going. The Kuiper Belt, sir? Taeyang looked confused. There's nothing out there but ice and rocks. Daejung's smile grew wider. That's what everyone thinks. But we're going to visit an old friend. A very big old friend. The Indomitable turned away from Earth and accelerated into deep space. Behind them, the Valorian fleet continued its patrol, confident and arrogant. They had no idea what was waiting in the darkness. High Diplomat Vexlara stood on her ship's bridge watching Earth through the view screen. She had done this dozens of times with dozens of species. They always surrendered. Sometimes it took threats. Sometimes it took demonstrations of power, but they always bent the knee eventually. Humanity would be no different. She was sure of it. But far out in the frozen darkness beyond Neptune, something was waking up. Something that would prove her very, very wrong. The Kuiper Belt was cold and empty. Billions of chunks of ice and rock floated in the darkness beyond Neptune. Nothing lived here. Nothing moved here except the slow dance of debris that had orbited the sun since the solar system was born, or so everyone thought. Captain, Daejung stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as they approached a specific set of coordinates. Lieutenant Taeyang had questioned the course twice, confused about why they were heading to empty space. Daejung had just smiled and told him to trust the navigation. Send the clearance code, Daejung ordered. The communications officer transmitted a complex sequence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the empty space in front of them began to shimmer and twist. Reality itself seemed to bend. Taeyang gasped. His hands froze on the controls. A ship appeared. But calling it a ship was like calling an ocean a puddle. The thing that materialized in front of them was enormous beyond belief. It stretched over 4 kilometers from front to back. Its hull was dark gray metal that seemed to drink in light. Weapons bristled from every surface like the spines of some massive deep-sea creature. The Indomitable, Earth's pride and joy, looked like a child's toy next to it. What is that? Taeyang whispered. That, Daejung said with pride in his voice, is the Sovereign Hammer, Earth's Titan-class warship, and humanity's best-kept secret. The massive ship sent a docking clearance. The Indomitable approached slowly, like a mouse approaching a sleeping dragon. They landed in a hangar bay so large it could have held 50 ships their size. When Daejung stepped off his ship, he was met by Fleet Admiral Bora Shin. She was a woman in her 60s with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. She had given 15 years of her life to this project. Welcome aboard, Captain, she said. I assume Earth Defense Command sent you for a reason. The Valorians are here, Daejung replied. They want us to join their hegemony. If we refuse, they'll destroy us. Bora nodded slowly. Then it's time. 15 years of hiding. 15 years of building. Time to show the galaxy what humanity can do. She led him through the ship's corridors. They walked for 10 minutes and still hadn't reached the bridge. The ship was a city, a fortress, a weapon all rolled into one. Crew members moved with purpose, 8,000 of Earth's best and brightest working in perfect coordination. How? Daejung asked. How did we build something like this without anyone knowing? Bora smiled grimly. 15 years ago we found something near Proxima Centauri. A derelict ship ancient beyond measure. It had been destroyed in some long-forgotten war. But enough remained for us to learn, to understand. We took their technology and made it our own. Made it better. They entered the bridge. It was massive, with dozens of stations monitoring every system. At the center sat Commander Ji-hoon Kwon, the ship's captain. He was a calm man in his 40s, known for being able to handle any crisis. Captain Park, Ji-hoon greeted him. I heard about our visitors. Not very friendly, are they? They think we're weak, Daejung replied. They think they can push us around. Ji-hoon stood and walked to a large view screen. He pressed a button and schematics appeared. Let me show you what the Sovereign Hammer can do. Chief Engineer Sung-min Lee joined them. He was older, with worry lines on his face, but his eyes shone with pride when he looked at his creation. Our shields can absorb more damage than the entire Valorian fleet can dish out, Sung-min explained. Our engines can create gravity fields strong enough to trap enemy ships. Our weapons, he smiled, our weapons have never been tested in real combat. But in simulations we can destroy a capital ship with one shot. A young woman approached. Tactical Officer Yu Jin Cho was barely 30, but could calculate battle strategies faster than most computers. The Singularity Cannon is our main weapon, she said. It fires a beam that can punch through any known shielding. One shot. One kill. But we also have antimatter torpedoes, plasma cannons, and graviton pulse weapons, Sung-min added. This ship was designed to fight an entire fleet alone. And win. Daejung felt hope for the first time since the Valorians arrived. Can we beat them? Bora looked at him seriously. We don't want to beat them, Captain. We want to make them realize that fighting us would be stupid. The Valorians are bullies. They've built their empire by intimidating weaker species. They've never faced anyone who could match them. Until now, Ji-hoon added. A shuttle arrived carrying Dr. Min-ji-han. She had been given special clearance and brought to the Sovereign Hammer. When she stepped onto the bridge and saw the massive warship's capabilities displayed on the screens, her jaw dropped. This is impossible, she breathed. We shouldn't have technology like this for another 100 years. We got help from the past, Bora said. That derelict ship taught us things we never would have discovered on our own. Minji immediately began studying the Valorian military records they had collected. She was brilliant at understanding patterns and strategies. After an hour, she looked up with excitement and fear mixed in her eyes. They've never lost, she said. In 300 years, the Valorian hegemony has never been defeated. But that's because they've never fought anyone strong. They pick on weak species. They use numbers and superior technology to overwhelm enemies who can't fight back. What happens when they face someone who can fight back? Daejung asked. Minji smiled. They have no idea. Their tactics, their strategy, everything is based on being the biggest bully in the room. They don't know how to handle an equal. A message came through from Earth. Ambassador Hyun-woo's voice was tense. The Valorians gave us an ultimatum. 24 hours to accept their treaty or they start attacking our colonies. Bora looked at her command crew. Then we don't have time to waste. Commander Kwon, prepare the ship for departure. Captain Park, return to your vessel and escort us in. Dr. Han, you're staying with us. We'll need your expertise on Valorian psychology. Ji-hoon turned to his crew. All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations. Charge all weapons to standby. Prepare for immediate departure. Today we stop hiding. Today humanity shows its teeth. The Sovereign Hammer came alive. 8,000 crew members moved to their positions. Engines that could move a small moon began warming up. Weapons that had never fired in anger powered on for the first time. Sung-min monitored everything from engineering. He had spent years worrying about system failures. Now watching his creation wake up, he felt nothing but pride. All systems green, Captain. The hammer is ready. Yujin checked her weapons boards. Every gun, every missile, every exotic weapon system showed ready status. Tactical systems nominal. We can engage at any time. Ji-hoon sat in his command chair. He pressed the ship-wide communications button. Crew of the Sovereign Hammer, hear me. For 15 years we have trained and prepared. We built this ship in secret, hoping we would never need it. That hope is gone. The Valorians are at our door demanding we bow down or die. He paused, letting his words sink in. But we are not a species that bows. We are humanity. We survived ice ages and plagues. We conquered our own planet and reached for the stars. When the galaxy thought we were weak, we built something that would make them think twice. Today we reveal what we are truly capable of. Today we change the balance of power forever. The crew cheered. On the bridge, officers gripped their stations with determination. Helm, Ji-hoon ordered. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. The Sovereign Hammer's engines ignited. Energy poured through systems designed to move the massive ship faster than physics said it should move. Space itself seemed to bend around them. They accelerated. The ship that had hidden in darkness for 15 years now raced toward Earth, toward destiny, toward a confrontation that would shake the foundations of galactic power. The Valorians had no idea what was coming. They thought they were dealing with a weak species with primitive technology. They were about to learn that humanity had been playing a different game all along, and the rules of that game were about to change everything. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood in the Grand Hall of Haven's Gate Station. Through the massive windows, he could see the Valorian fleet, 6 ships, beautiful and deadly, hanging in space like predators circling wounded prey. His time was almost up. High Diplomat Vexillara sat across from him. Her skin glowed an angry red color. In the past day, the Valorians had moved their ships into aggressive positions. Their weapons were charging. The threat was clear. 1 hour, Ambassador, Vexillara said. Her musical voice had lost its sweetness. Now it sounded cold and sharp. 1 hour to give us your answer. Will Earth join the hegemony, or will we be forced to demonstrate what happens to those who refuse our generosity? Hyunwoo met her multifaceted eyes without flinching. Years of diplomatic training kept his voice steady. High Diplomat, Earth values friendship and cooperation, but the terms you've offered don't reflect partnership. They reflect domination. Vexillara laughed. The sound reminded Hyunwoo of breaking glass. Partnership? You don't understand, do you? Young species, the galaxy doesn't work that way. The strong rule, the weak serve. This is nature's law. Enforcer Kralthorn activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing 3 destroyed worlds. Cities in ruins. Empty planets stripped of resources. The Karathi thought they could refuse, Kralthorn growled. The Plen believed they were strong enough to stand alone. The Sindari tried to fight. Now they are dust and memory. Choose wisely, human. In a secure room nearby, Dr. Minji-han monitored Valorian communications. Her fingers flew across her keyboard. Suddenly she gasped. Energy readings from the Valorian fleet were spiking. They were preparing to fire. They're going to shoot at one of our orbital stations, she said into her communicator. A demonstration. They're going to kill people to make a point. Hyunwoo heard her warning through his earpiece. His heart raced, but his face stayed calm. High Diplomat, attacking civilians would be a grave mistake. Vexillara smiled. Would it? Or would it simply be a lesson in reality? Then every alarm on every ship started screaming. On the Valorian flagship's bridge, a sensor officer shouted in panic. High Diplomat! Gravitational anomaly. Something massive just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Vexilara's skin flashed through a rainbow of colors. Shock, fear, confusion. What? Where? 200,000 kilometers from Earth. It's impossible. No ship that size should be able to navigate with that precision. On every screen, every display, every viewport, the same image appeared. A ship. No, not a ship. A Titan, a Leviathan. A weapon the size of a city. The Sovereign Hammer had arrived. Kralthorn pulled up tactical data with shaking claws. His voice, usually so confident and threatening, now trembled. High Diplomat. The readings. This can't be right. The energy signature alone. The mass. The weapons. The Valorian flagship was 800 meters long, the largest ship in their fleet. It had made species surrender just by appearing. Now it looked like a toy. Next to the dark gray Titan slowly rotating into position, between the Valorian fleet and Earth, the Sovereign Hammer, was over 4 kilometers of human engineering and ancient, alien technology merged into something new, something terrifying. Weapons ports covered its hull like the scales of a dragon. Energy readings showed shields already active at levels that made Valorian defensive systems look primitive. On the bridge of the Sovereign Hammer, Commander Ji-hoon sat calmly in his chair. Around him, his crew worked with perfect efficiency. 8,000 people acting as one. Communications, Ji-hoon ordered. Open all channels. I want everyone to hear this. Lieutenant Tae Yang, now serving on the Titan-class ship, activated the transmission. His voice went out on every frequency, to every ship, to every station in the solar system. This is the Earth Defense Force Titan-class warship Sovereign Hammer to all vessels. Earth's territorial space is sovereign territory. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. This is your only warning. Tactical Officer Yu Jin brought weapons online. Her displays showed targeting solutions for every ship in the Valorian fleet. All weapons hot, Captain. We can engage in 3 seconds on your command. Hold fire, Ji-hoon said calmly. Let them see what we have. Let them understand. The Sovereign Hammer slowly rotated, displaying its full profile. Running lights illuminated weapon ports. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. Cannons that could vaporize cruisers. Missile bays that could darken the sun with their fire, and at the spine of the ship, the Singularity Cannon, a weapon that had never been fired but could theoretically destroy anything. On the Valorian flagship, Crowthorne was reading data with increasing horror. High Diplomat. Their main cannon alone outputs more energy than our entire fleet combined. Their shields. I've never seen anything like this outside of ancient fortress stations. If we engage, Vexlara's voice was barely a whisper. We die. Quickly. Admiral Borashin's face appeared on every screen. She was broadcast directly to the Valorian fleet and to Haven's Gate Station. Her iron-gray hair and hard eyes made her look like exactly what she was, a warrior who had spent 15 years preparing for this moment. High Diplomat Vexalara, I am Fleet Admiral Borashin of Earth Defense Command. It seems your intelligence about humanity was incomplete. We are not the weak species you believed us to be. We have been preparing for this day for a very long time. She paused, letting her words sink in. I suggest we return to negotiations. But this time we discuss terms between equals, not masters and servants, equals. Back at Haven's Gate, Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. Vexlara stared at the view screen, her skin pale blue with shock and fear. The arrogant diplomat who had threatened to destroy humanity now looked small and uncertain. As I was saying, High Diplomat, Hyunwoo continued smoothly, Earth values partnership, true partnership between equals. We have a counter-proposal for you. Equal trading rights, mutual defense agreements, technology sharing on fair terms, and most importantly, recognition of Earth's complete sovereignty. He gestured toward the view screen where the Sovereign Hammer hung in space like a dark promise. I believe our negotiating position has improved significantly. Don't you agree? Vexlara couldn't speak. She just stared at the massive warship. In 300 years of Valorian expansion, nothing like this had ever appeared to challenge them. Species either submitted or were destroyed. No one had ever had the strength to stand as an equal, until now. Crowthorne was running calculations. His expression showed a warrior's respect for a superior force. High Diplomat, he said quietly, I recommend we accept their terms. If this comes to combat, we cannot win. That ship alone could destroy our fleet.
And we have no idea what other surprises these humans have hidden. On the Sovereign Hammer's bridge, Dr. Minji Han watched the Valorian communications she was monitoring.
They're panicking, she reported. Multiple ships requesting orders. Their fleet admiral is demanding explanations. Vexlara isn't responding. Captain Dae-jung, who had come aboard to observe, smiled grimly. Good, let them panic. Let them understand what it feels like to be the weaker species for once. Ji-hoon remained calm. Hold position. Maintain weapons charge, but do not target them directly. We want to intimidate, not provoke. Show strength, not aggression. Earth's orbital stations erupted in celebration. People who had been terrified of the Valorian fleet now watched in amazement as humanity's secret weapon hung in space, protecting them. The impossible had happened. The young species everyone thought was weak had bared its fangs. On Haven's Gate, Vexalara finally found her voice. It was quiet, stripped of its earlier arrogance. Ambassador Hyunwoo, I need to consult with the Hegemony Council. This is unprecedented. Take all the time you need, Hyunwoo replied. But I should mention that we have limited patience. And the Sovereign Hammer has a very capable weapons officer who is eager to test her systems. I would hate for impatience on either side to lead to unfortunate circumstances. He used Vexalara's own words against her, and she knew it. The threat that had worked so well on other species now hung over her own head. The balance of power had shifted. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The weak young species had become something else entirely, something that even the mighty Valorian hegemony had to respect. And the Sovereign Hammer, silent and deadly in Earth orbit, was the proof that humanity would never bow to anyone. The standoff lasted 6 tense hours. High Diplomat Vexlara locked herself in a private room on her flagship, communicating frantically with the Valorian Hegemony Council. Meanwhile, the Sovereign Hammer hung in space like a sword waiting to fall. On the bridge of the Titan-class warship, the command crew waited. Commander Ji-hoon sat perfectly still in his chair, looking calm. But inside, his mind was racing through hundreds of possible scenarios. What if the Valorians decided to fight? What if they retreated and came back with a larger fleet? What if they tried something sneaky? Admiral Borashin stood beside him, arms crossed. "They're scared," she said quietly. "But scared enemies can be dangerous. They might do something stupid just to save face." Dr. Minji Han worked at a nearby station, analyzing every piece of Valorian communication she could intercept. "The Hegemony Council is divided," she reported. "Some want to negotiate. Others want to save their reputation by teaching Earth a lesson. The hardliners are pushing for a limited engagement." "A limited engagement?" Captain Daejung asked. He had stayed aboard the Sovereign Hammer as a tactical advisor. "What does that mean?" "They want to test us," Minji explained. "Send a few ships to attack. See how we respond. If we're really as strong as we appear, they back down. If we're bluffing, then they destroy us," Bora finished. Classic bully tactics. Push until someone pushes back harder. Tactical Officer Yu Jin looked up from her displays. "Captain, 3 Valorian heavy cruisers are breaking formation. They're approaching us. Weapons are charging." The bridge went silent. This was it. The moment that would decide everything. Ji-hoon's voice was steady and cold. "Track them. Lock weapons. But hold fire until they commit. I want everyone to see who shoots first." The 3 Valorian cruisers accelerated toward the Sovereign Hammer. They were beautiful ships, sleek and deadly. Each one carried enough firepower to level a city. Together, they had destroyed rebellions and crushed resistance across dozens of worlds. Range 50,000 kilometers, Yujin reported. 40,000. 30,000. They're still accelerating. 20,000. Every eye on the bridge was fixed on the displays. Every hand was ready at their station. The tension was thick enough to cut. 10,000 kilometers. They're opening missile bay doors. Ji-hoon's fingers gripped his armrest. "Steady, wait for it." The Valorian cruisers fired. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space. It was a coordinated alpha strike, designed to test the Sovereign Hammer's defenses. Hundreds of weapons, all aimed at one target. The bridge crew braced for impact. The weapons hit the Sovereign Hammer's shields. For a moment, the barrier flared brilliant blue, lighting up space like a star. Energy crackled across the invisible surface, then the light faded. The shields held. The massive warship hadn't even moved. Not a tremor. Not a shake. The attack that would have crippled any normal ship had been absorbed like rain hitting a mountain. Chief Engineer Sung Min checked his readings and smiled. Shields at 98%. That tickled. On the Valorian cruisers, panic set in. They had just thrown everything they had at the human ship and it had done nothing. Absolutely nothing. Ji-hoon's eyes went cold and hard. They've made their choice. Tactical, disable those ships. Non-lethal if possible. But show them what we can do. Eugeni's fingers danced across her console. Firing solution calculated. Graviton pulse cannons ready, engaging. The Sovereign Hammer fired. But it wasn't the massive Singularity cannon. That would have been overkill. Instead, 3 invisible pulses of manipulated gravity shot out from the Titan-class ship. The pulses hit the Valorian cruisers. Their shields collapsed instantly like soap bubbles popping. Secondary electromagnetic bursts followed, precisely targeted. Every weapon system went dead. Every engine shut down. In 15 seconds, 3 state-of-the-art warships became floating junk, but the crews were alive. The life support was intact. The Sovereign Hammer had disabled them with surgical precision, showing both power and mercy. On the Valorian flagship, Enforcer Kralthorn stared at his displays in shock. His analysis came back with numbers that made his blood run cold. "High Diplomat," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "They disabled 3 cruisers in 15 seconds. Single target disablement. Minimal damage. Maximum efficiency. If they engaged our entire fleet, how long would we last?" Vexlara asked, though she didn't really want to know the answer. 4 minutes. Maybe 5 if we scattered. And that's assuming they don't use their main weapon. If they use that, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Admiral Bo-Ra-Shin's face appeared on every Valorian screen again. This time her expression was harder. High Diplomat Vexillara, we have disabled 3 of your vessels without casualties. This was a demonstration. We could have destroyed them. We chose not to. She paused, letting that sink in. Earth desires peace. We want trade, friendship, and cooperation, but we will defend our sovereignty with every means at our disposal. You have tested our strength. Now you know. The choice is yours, war or diplomacy, but understand this clearly. You cannot win a war with us. On Haven's Gate Station, Ambassador Hyunwoo watched Vexillara carefully. The High Diplomat's skin had turned pale blue, the color of fear and uncertainty in Valorian biology. Her arrogance was gone. Her threats were meaningless now. She looked at the 3 disabled ships drifting in space. She looked at the Sovereign Hammer still ready, still capable of doing so much worse. She looked at the tactical data showing just how outmatched her fleet was, and for the first time in Valorian history, a High Diplomat faced an equal. Not a weaker species to be bullied. Not a primitive civilization to be exploited. An equal. Vexillara took a long, shuddering breath. Her skin slowly shifted to silver, the color of acceptance, of peace, of respect. Ambassador Hyunwoo, she said quietly, it appears the hegemony has underestimated humanity significantly, perhaps severely. For the first time since the negotiations began, she bowed. It was a shallow bow, but it was there. Among Valorians, bowing was a gesture of respect, something they had never shown to a species outside their inner circle. The Hegemony Council is receptive to revisiting the proposed treaty terms. Your terms: equal partnership, mutual defense, fair trade, and recognition of Earth's complete sovereignty. Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. I'm pleased to hear that, High Diplomat. I believe this is the beginning of a productive relationship. One built on respect rather than fear. On the Sovereign Hammer's bridge, the crew erupted in quiet celebration. They had done it. They had stood up to the galaxy's biggest bully and won without even using their full strength. Ji-hoon stood and addressed his crew. Well done, all of you. But stay alert. The crisis isn't over yet. Keep weapons hot and shields up until that treaty is signed. Bo-Ra-Shin looked at the Earth hanging in space, that beautiful blue-green world. She had spent 15 years preparing for this day. 15 years of secrecy, sacrifice, and endless work. Now it had paid off. We did it, she said softly. We actually did it. Captain Dae-jung stood beside her. Humanity has a funny habit of surprising people who underestimate us. Dr. Min-ji-han was monitoring galactic communications. Her eyes went wide. Admiral, you need to see this. The news is spreading fast. Multiple species are talking about what just happened here. The whole galaxy is watching. Bo-Ra nodded slowly. Good, let them watch. Let them see that the age of Valorian dominance is over. Let them see that it's possible to stand up and say no. Over the next several hours, the new treaty was drafted. This time, the terms were fair. Earth retained complete control of its military and government. Trade would be conducted on equal terms. Technology sharing would be mutual. And most importantly, Earth was recognized as a sovereign power, not a client state. When Ambassador Hyunwoo and High Diplomat Vexillara signed the final agreement, it was broadcast across human space. People celebrated in the streets of Earth. On colony worlds, humans who had been terrified just days before now felt hope. But the real impact was felt across the galaxy. In the dark corners of the hegemony, among the client species forced to serve, whispers began. If humanity could stand up to the Valorians, maybe others could too. Maybe the age of submission was ending. The Sovereign Hammer remained on station in Earth orbit, a constant reminder of what humanity was capable of. The galaxy had changed. The balance of power had shifted. And humanity, the young species everyone had dismissed, now stood as proof that strength, preparation, and courage could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. 3 months passed. Earth was different now. The treaty with the Valorian hegemony had been signed and sealed. But more than that, humanity's place in the galaxy had fundamentally changed. They were no longer the scared newcomers hiding in the corner. They were players at the table. Haven's Gate Station had transformed into a true diplomatic center. Every day new ships arrived. But they weren't Valorian warships anymore. They were diplomatic vessels from species across the galaxy. Some came from the hegemony's inner circle. Many more came from the client states. the subjugated species who had served the Valorians for decades. They all wanted to meet the humans who had said no and lived. Ambassador. Hyunwoo sat in a meeting room with a delegation from the Aranese collective. The Aranese were a gentle species, tall and thin with silver skin and large sad eyes. 30 years ago, the Valorians had forced them into the hegemony. They had no choice. Submit or die, how did you do it? Their lead diplomat asked. His name was Cyrix and his voice trembled with emotion. How did you resist them? We tried once. They destroyed 3 of our colonies and killed millions. We surrendered the next day. Hyunwoo looked at the alien diplomat with sympathy. We prepared. For 15 years, we built the Sovereign Hammer in secret. We developed weapons they didn't know about. We trained crews and developed tactics. But most importantly, we were willing to risk everything for our freedom. And now? Cyrix asked. What happens now? Now the galaxy changes, Hyunwoo replied. The Valorians have learned they can't bully everyone. And other species are learning they don't have to accept subjugation. We're not saying it will be easy. But it's possible. Cyrix nodded slowly. Hope flickered in his large eyes. The Aranese Council is discussing independence. For the first time in 30 years, we're discussing it seriously. In another part of the station, High Diplomat Vexlara met privately with Admiral Bora Shin. The relationship between them had changed dramatically. Vexlara was no longer the threatening overlord. Now she was genuinely trying to build a partnership. You've changed the hegemony, Vexlara said. The council is divided. Some want to build weapons like yours. Others want to reform how we treat client species. A few even want war with Earth, though they're a small minority now. Bora listened carefully. We don't want war. We never did. We just want respect. We want to be treated as equals, not resources to be exploited. Equals. Vexlara repeated the word like she was tasting it. For 300 years, the hegemony has known only masters and servants. You've introduced a third option. Partners. It's difficult for many to accept. Change is always difficult, Bora replied. But the alternative is worse. Your empire is cracking. 7 client species have already demanded new treaties. 2 have declared independence outright. You can try to crush them, but then you'll face rebellion after rebellion. Or you can adapt, evolve, build an alliance instead of an empire. Vexilara's skin shifted through several colors. Uncertainty, worry, but also something that might have been hope. Perhaps you're right. The old ways are ending. Far from Earth, at the edge of human territory, the Sovereign Hammer maintained its patrol. Commander Ji-hoon Kwan had settled into a routine. The ship was no longer a secret. Everyone in the galaxy knew about it now. Some feared it. Others saw it as a symbol of hope. Dr. Minji Han had joined his crew permanently as Chief Diplomatic Officer. She spent her days analyzing communications from across the galaxy, watching how the political landscape was shifting. Commander, you should see this, she said one morning. 9 client species have requested renegotiation of their hegemony treaties. 3 more are considering it. The entire power structure is changing. Ji-hoon smiled slightly. All because we showed them it was possible to say no. It's more than that, Minji replied. We showed them that strength doesn't have to mean cruelty. We disabled those Valorian ships without killing anyone. We demonstrated power and mercy at the same time. That's what's inspiring people. Captain Dae-jung had returned to active duty with the Indomitable, but his job had changed. Now he escorted Valorian trade convoys through dangerous space, protecting the same aliens who had threatened Earth just months ago. It was strange, but he understood the bigger picture. 6 months ago, I thought they'd destroy us, he told his crew during a briefing. Now we're protecting their merchants. The galaxy is full of surprises. Lieutenant Tae Yang Song had been promoted. He now commanded his own destroyer, the EDF Rising Phoenix. At 26, he was one of the youngest ship captains in Earth's fleet. His generation would navigate this new era of galactic politics. We're not the underdogs anymore, he told his crew on their first day together. We're major players now. That means we have to be responsible. We have to prove that power can be used wisely. Chief Engineer Seung-min Lee received something unexpected. A request from Valorian engineers. They wanted to understand human shield technology. It was the first genuine technology exchange, a sign that the partnership was real. Seung-min reviewed the proposal with his team. We share some technology, they share some of theirs. But the singularity cannon stays classified. That's our insurance policy. The cooperation was working. Slowly, carefully, but it was working. Then everything changed again. Long-range sensors detected something at the edge of the galaxy, a fleet. 60 ships, all heavily armed, all heading toward known space. They didn't match any known design. They weren't hegemony. They weren't human. They weren't any species in the database. High Diplomat Vexillara contacted Earth immediately. For the first time, there was genuine fear in her voice. Admiral Shin, we have a problem. A serious problem. An emergency summit was called on Haven's Gate. Representatives from multiple species gathered, human and alien working together, analyzing the threat. Dr. Minji Han made a breakthrough. She had been searching ancient Valorian archives looking for any information about unknown fleets. She found it buried in records 400 years old. They're called the Kethris Armada, she announced to the assembled leaders, a nomadic warrior species. 4 centuries ago, the old hegemony drove them out of the galaxy after a brutal war. Millions died on both sides. The Valorians barely won. And now they're back, Vexillara said quietly, seeking revenge. Ambassador Hyun-woo looked around the room at all the different species. How strong are they? Vexilara's skin turned dark blue, the color of deep worry. Alone, the hegemony cannot defeat them. We would lose dozens of worlds before stopping their advance. We barely survived last time, and we were stronger then. The room went silent. Then Admiral Borashin stood up. Then it's fortunate you're not alone anymore. The Sovereign Hammer stands ready. Earth will fight beside the hegemony. Vexillara looked at her in surprise. You would help us? After everything? This isn't about the past, Bora replied. It's about the future. We're partners now. When one partner is threatened, the other steps up. That's what partnership means. Commander Ji-hoon received orders to prepare the Sovereign Hammer for combat. But this time they wouldn't be facing the Valorians. They'd be fighting alongside them. On the bridge, he addressed his crew. The Kethris Armada is coming. They're strong, experienced, and angry, but they're about to learn something important. The galaxy isn't what it was 400 years ago. Species that were enemies are now allies, and humanity has introduced a new kind of power to the equation. Tactical Officer Yu Jin ran simulations. 60 Kethris ships against combined human and Valorian forces. With the Sovereign Hammer as our flagship, we have a chance. A good chance. Ambassador Hyun-woo stood before a gathering of diplomats from a dozen species. Some were from the hegemony's core. Others were client states. A few were newly independent. All of them were threatened by the approaching armada. 3 months ago, we stood at a crossroads, he said. The Valorians wanted to make us servants. We refused. We showed them a different way. Partnership instead of domination. Cooperation instead of conquest. He gestured to the diverse crowd. Now we face a test of that choice. The Kethris come seeking revenge. They expect to find the same weak hegemony they fought centuries ago. Instead, they'll find something new. A coalition. An alliance of equals. His voice grew stronger. This is the future we've built together. Not human dominance, not Valorian subjugation, but cooperation. Species working together, protecting each other, standing united against threats. The Kethris will learn what the Valorians learned. Together we are stronger than anyone thought possible. The Sovereign Hammer led a combined fleet toward the edge of known space. Human ships flew in formation with Valorian vessels. Species that had been enemies months ago now coordinated tactics and shared intelligence. On the bridge of the Titan-class warship, Commander Ji-hoon looked at his displays. Behind him, dozens of ships from multiple species followed humanity's banner. The scared species everyone thought was weak now led a coalition that would reshape the galaxy. All ships report ready, Commander. Taeyang reported from communications. The fleet awaits your orders. Ji-hoon took a deep breath. Signal the fleet. Maximum speed. We're going to show the Kethris that this galaxy has changed. That species can stand together. That bullies, whether they're Valorian or Kethris, will always face resistance.